Hello, Jakka-B here and welcome back to my tutorial series. So this one is all about showing you guys how you can slimline your work process using MIDI for your drums. It's also a first look at my updated template for 2023. 5 years ago, I kicked off my producer series with a 2018 UK/Happy Hardcore template. A lot has changed since then, so I wanted to add in a template which is far more in depth, includes lots of different bass sounds and also lots of different updated processing techniques as well. This template is available in FL Studio and Ableton, and if you have neither, then don't worry because you can buy just the standalone samples. So I'm going to kick things off by showing you how the template works in Ableton, and then I'm going to move on to FL. If you want to have a look and a little browse at the templates, you can check them out. The links are in the description below. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so before jumping in to show you exactly how the template works, I just want to show you how it is structured. So there's just a section entitled just drums. They're all headed up here. Sounds like this. Then there's modern sidechain MIDI bass. Then there is classic off bass and modern sidechain audio bass. So to jump into how the MIDI racks work, I've just got to solo the kick here, and you can see I've loaded an instrument rack, and when I flick through the template, you can see you are able to flick through a load of different kicks without actually having to load anything else in. You can also add to this by clicking create chain here, and you can call this, for instance, add your own, and you'll be able to just drag and drop your samples in. If you want to overwrite any of the ones I've loaded in, you can also do so as well by just dragging over the top of them. The drums and percussion are very much the same as well. So for instance, with the rides, I've left some spots to load in your own as well. The percussive loops are the same. Also included on those is some processing. So I've added some light compression and some EQ, and then as with the drums, I've done something similar. So the snares, again, you can flick between the two. The main thing I want to talk about is the different bass sounds. So using bass is MIDI here. I've got one long audio bass which comes included with it, like a multi-sample bass. It sounds like this on its own. The sidechain trigger is being done by Jakka-B, which I've included in the Ableton template in case you haven't got it. That should just load in like this here. It's a lot like Shaperbox or LFO Tool or any of the other kind of volume shaping sidechain instruments, VSTs you can find. And that is routed to the sidechain trigger, which is this white channel along the top here. So if you want to change that trigger, you can do it from the drop-down menu here, and you can change it from any of those inputs there. You can also change the depth of the sidechain. And if you want to change the pattern, you can just move these around here, like so. The sub bass on the MIDI works exactly the same here. It's one long sample, so you can, with both of these two basses here, you can move them up and down onto different notes, and they should sound fine to an extent. And then on to the classic off bass. With this one, the sub is a lot more basic. I've just done the sub to sidechain to the kick using audio. This is very simple because it's an off bass, so it doesn't interfere with the kick at all. And then finally, all of these are in an F. However, in the sample pack which is included with it, there's every single note included. So you'll be able to just drag and drop the ones you want to into there, and then you'll have to drop the corresponding bass samples in as well. However, that's really, really easy. You just literally drag and drop on here. Or if you want to change it in the MIDI, you double click here and you just drag your own one in here as well. On the processing, I've just got a little bit of EQ. So the drums, they go into the drums, and the percussion go into a drums and percussion MIDI group. They have two sends on them. So there's this one here, which is a really light reverb, and then there is the drum saturation. So without those, that just helps, the short reverb plate just helps to kind of like glue them together a little bit. The drum saturation just brightens, livens the kind of sounds up, the harmonics of the drums. And then to finish, I've just got a real light mastering chain. Which just consists of a limiter, some light compression, and some EQ. Depending on what you're adding to the track, that mastering chain may or may not work. So you can just turn it off here or work with it on, entirely up to you. So I thought the using the instrument racks and loading in different drum sounds into those instrument racks was a really slimlined way of working. You can chuck in 5, 6, 7, 8 different kicks, trial them out as you're going. You can chuck in 4 or 5 different open closed hats. And I wanted to make a template that included some broader sounds than my last one, which was just kind of like, one hi-hat, one kick, etc. And what the beauty of the kick drums I've added as well is they're all super modern ones. I'm massively excited to launch this template. I've been trying to find a way to do some updates for some of the packs and stuff I put out, and it took me a little while to kind of work out what I wanted to do, but I figured this would be the best way to include as many kind of modern samples as possible, and some different kind of variations of kick, bass, percussion structure and things like that. If you want to make your changes, all you have to really do is kind of just delete certain sections out, resave it as your own, and you'll be ready to go. I hope that helped. Let's have a look at the FL Studio version. So this is the 2023 FL Studio template. You need the most up-to-date version of FL Studio to make sure this works correctly. So what I wanted to dive into is just showing you guys a different way of working. Rather than kind of dropping audio in, you can use your MIDI as drums. So to start off, I want to just show you the 4 sections that are that make up this template. So we've got the just drums, and modern sidechain MIDI bass, classic off bass, and then modern sidechain audio bass. Let's have a look at the kicks first. So the kicks are MIDI. However, what you can do is, rather than having to lay out your MIDI over and over again, as it's playing, you are able to switch out. I've done a row of them here, so you can do it like this. And then you've got room there to add your own should you wish, and you can add more and more and more and more. You can overwrite the ones that I've added in. And doing it this way, creating a channel rack here and then doing it this way allows you to load in multiple kicks or sounds, and then you can kind of go from there. The percussion very much works the same. I've grouped everything up here so all the percussion can be nicely folded away. So for instance, with the rides, all of those channels, everything here is also routed through a channel here. So for instance, the kick goes into channel 3. Ride goes into into a channel and then into a percussive group, which has some processing on it. Has Destructor, which is a really good kind of saturation plugin, and Fruity Parameter 2, which is the inbuilt EQ. So that's the other thing. Everything on this template is stock plugin, so you don't need any external plugins to be able to load this up. And all of the samples that you'll hear are included in the template as well. The closed hat, the hi-hat, etc., they're all very much the same in how they work. The percussive loop, for instance, goes there into the percussive loop. So next I want to talk about the sends, because there's a reverb and also a saturation on these drum sounds. So if I play just the drums, it's a really light reverb there using Fruity Reverb 2 and also a saturation, which just brightens things up a little bit, gives it a little more harmonics, a little more energy. All the bass sounds, so the bass is broken down into a MIDI bass sidechain here. They are triggered to the kick, so when the kick is on, the MIDI bass and sub will duck under the kick like this. To do that, I've set up a Fruity Peak controller. I've then routed it to the bass and the sub. So when you right click here, it's linked to a controller there. I've already done that. That's all set up for you. So as long as you use your MIDI, though that for MIDI and that for the sub, you'll be able to just load that straight in. Also with the MIDI, something which I have done it for you also is I've just changed some of the envelope in the sampler. So you know where you drag and drop a sample in here, I've just had to play around with the volume or the envelope there just to get it a little tighter, so it was sounding right. And I've also, it's in an F, so I've made sure that the root note here is in an F as well, which is also really important. So that's necessary to be able to get that in the right key. The sub, in fact, is in a C anyway, so that can be fine to sit on an F. It's already the root note, but I've done something similar with that as well. Just done a little bit of adjustment there on the volume envelope. But if you want to change the sound for a different sub, you just drag and drop your own one in here, and likewise with the bass as well, you do exactly the same. Further along in the template, these are all audio samples, so it's been a lot easier to kind of add these in. They've still got their own, the sub all go into one channel, however the bass sounds all go into a different bass sound and then route into this bass group here. So these are they've just been automated there. You can see each individually, so that's fine. That works really nicely with the kick, and the modern sidechain is very much the same as well. I've added some slight mastering on there just to kind of liven it up a little bit, make it a little bit louder. So if I turn those off here, that may or may not be to your taste, and you know, you can turn those off. If you want to make any sort of major adjustments to the template, you can always go down to arrangement here and clone, or add one. If you go to clone, it will save what you've got here and it will create a whole new arrangement. So we call it template 2, and then you can flick back between the arrangement and template 2, and what you have will remain there. That's a really good way of changing your arrangement without actually kind of changing what you've already done, although you still have everything going via one mixer channel, so you do have to remember that. So all of the effects go into this effects group, all of the drums go into the drum group, all of the percussions go into the percussive group, and the bass sounds go into the bass group. You get the idea. And then both the drum, the percussive groups go into the reverb send and also the saturation send as well. So it's all set up for you, ready to go. You can drag, drop, load your own samples in. Pretty easy to do, and if you want to make changes, you can do that, resave your own project, etc. I hope this helped. I've been looking for a way to dive in and kind of find a way of recreating an up-to-date template with lots of modern samples and bass sounds, and this seemed like the best way forward. So good luck with this, and hope to catch you soon.